Welcome to another episode of Your Music is Bad and You Should Feel Bad with Matt and Blake. He's Matt. I'm Blake. Today we're going to talk about Judas Priest's new album, Invincible Shield. And if it sucks or not, it's Priest. It probably doesn't. What do you think, Matt?
Great. So I want to be very clear. I have not to anyone said that this album was bad, but I did say that it sounded like Painkiller, and people got just as mad. Or, I mean, granted, I might have said it in like a, whatever, they're just doing Painkiller again. But still, at no point did I say it was bad. And I listened to it more, and I do not think it is bad.
I agree. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's even throughout. I think there are some stronger songs than some of the other weaker songs.
That's
and
fair.
Also, to your Painkiller point, we're going to compare things to Painkiller, and that's a good thing. If you sound like Painkiller, that's a good thing. Painkiller was a great song, album, etc. Now, is it progressive? No. We talk about being progressive a lot on this podcast. Sure. That's not what Judas Priest is. That's not what they're claiming to be. So it's fine. We're not crapping on it. It's Priest. This is their 17th album. It's Priest. It sounds like it's supposed to sound.
Exactly. And the other thing is, like, it should sound like Painkiller because Andy Sneap is like practically in the band now. Like, not only has he been producing this one and the last one, and he produced Painkiller, but he filled in for Glenn Tipton on tour for a while. And then I think they had him stop doing that, but then he was still going to basically record with them in the studio. So he's like producing them, and he's a great producer, and he has a distinct sound.
Very prolific producer. I did do a little digging on Andy into the situation if he's in the band or not, and how many. He's got something like 100 album production credits. I think he's just on speed dial for Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast. I think he's technically like fully in the band at this point. And I did want to actually ask about this because I don't know exactly the situation. It sounds like you probably know Andy's work maybe better than I do. He's done a ton of production.
Yes.
Ton of production.
He's a very big metal producer.
Yes.
And I don't know the first thing he did, but Painkiller was, I think, one of the earlier things he did. And he was
also in a band back then, Sabbath.
Yeah.
Like late 80s, early 90s, something like that. I don't know crap about him.
But yeah, he's known for Painkiller, and also, like, we talked about Nevermore recently. He did Dead Heart in a Dead World, and then remixed Enemies of Reality because someone else in there like fucking sucks, and then also did this Godless Endeavor. I don't know if he did one after that, but yeah, he's very prolific, and there's a lot of big metal bands, and he has a very distinct sound and style. I think he established a lot of the sort of modern metal sound without necessarily going too crazy with like over compression and stuff like that. Although he does use part of my perspective on his sound comes from the fact that I bought a preset pack for the drum samples I use, and they're very distinct from the other presets that I tend to use on there. They're very aggressive. There's like a lot of layering on the kick and snares. They're very big, and they cut through a lot, but sometimes almost too much. But you can really very distinct, very powerful metal sound. So again, it's actually good. And I don't know exactly all the albums that he was on or not on between Painkiller now, but I know he was on Firepower.
Like it's like 100. So.
Right. But also, I mean, like the Judas Priest albums, but I know he was on Firepower and this one.
Yes.
And so I had a similar reaction to Firepower. I had nothing against it, but with everyone freaking out about it, and a lot of people,
Painkiller 3.
Yeah, and a lot of people felt the same way. They just said it in a more complimentary phrasing or tone or something, whereas I'm like, if I can make it, whatever. But if anybody,
some expectations from you and I being negative, which
if anybody's gonna repeat Painkiller or something like a little like more Painkiller, then it should be Judas Priest because they did Painkiller. And plenty of other bands have done a Painkiller since, and Judas Priest still does it better because they invented it.
Correct. Exactly.
There's also a common thing I see going around that is part of what prompted me to be like, all right, take it easy. It's just, they're just doing more Painkiller, is people being like baffled at how they could pull off an album this decent at this stage in their career. And I have a very strong theory compared to other contemporaries like Iron Maiden or maybe Queen's record. I don't know what other classic metal bands who've been around and doing a lot of stuff. And the most specific comparison is that if you say like Iron Maiden, since they're both of these bands at some point hit their like, okay, no more fucking around era. And like, I sometimes call it like a victory lap era, but in their case, I don't mean it to be derogatory. I mean, like they know their thing.
Very, very fair, especially with Priest. They're like, we're going to retire. We're done. This year's our farewell. And then they're like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Sorry. No bands have ever done that before, but this was pretty specific.
Yeah. Like, so the main difference between say like Maiden and Priest and most of the bands that we're comparing this to is that Priest later, they don't have that many late stage albums after Rob came back. They have a few, like the Nostradamus one. There's a couple others, but they like if you look at like when Bruce came back to Iron Maiden, they've done a bajillion albums since then, and the first few were really good, and then after that is where I started to be like, it's the same stuff, and sometimes the songs are too long because they're like, okay, it's the same, but we put more parts. I'm like, yeah, but who cares?
Always a problem with Maiden, though. Well, Maiden had a lot of really good songs. Maiden had a lot of the same song.
But they I think they even got more like prog Maiden, where they're like super long song, and it's like, but it's the same stuff. There's no like, oh, I didn't expect that from it. Now you know what's coming. And they did like that double album.
I have way a hot too much of the same thing. Prog Maiden. This is, I don't know if this is this might be a more popular opinion these days. Blaze Maiden was the best prog Maiden.
Oh, that's a real hot take there. That's what I'll
throw it out there.
That's what I'll say.
Talk about Virus. I'm talking about Falling Down.
Oh geez, I don't know. I don't remember shit from Virus.
I'm just saying.
Wait, Virus, or do you mean Virtual?
I'm talking the song.
Oh, the song. But which album is that on? I might be confusing.
Oh God, I don't even freaking remember the actual album title.
It probably is on Virtual 9.
Sounds about right.
Because that was goofy computer era.
Sure. And I'm not here to talk about strength of lyrics.
It's the same one as the Klansman, so there's some decent stuff there. Yeah, like I never really listened to it a bunch, but like the Klansman, you know, that became like a staple of their set even after Blaze left.
And even if that's maybe too spicy of a take, I want to point out that I don't think Blaze gets enough respect in general. This seems like a great guy. Are his vocals wildly different than Bruce's? Yes, definitely.
You're not alone in that.
But still had some really good stuff and worth another listen if at some point anybody listening was like, oh, Blaze Maiden, who cares? No, give it a sniff. Come on. You owe it to yourself. Yeah,
no, he's a little unfairly maligned. Why can't I find Virus? I don't know what's doesn't appear
hard to say.
Is it maybe that's not like the title? Could be like
Virus is the name of a song. Oh God, how'd it go? It's been a hot minute since I actually did a dive on Maiden. I'd have to remember things, and currently in my head is stuff with Priest that's not going to work.
It's just like a single. It's not on either of the Blaze albums. That's why I was like, what are you talking about?
Okay.
Well, apparently it was a single they released with them in '96. But I'll have to give that a listen because I may not have heard that song. It's interesting.
Well. You're gonna like Virus.
But yeah, I don't disagree. Angry Metal Guy would appreciate your take as well. He's a very big Blaze fan.
No.
He also really likes one of Blaze's solo albums, I think. I don't know. I don't think I've listened to it, but
I think everybody just likes Blaze. He's apparently is a really great guy. Musically, whatever, those aren't the same thing. But yeah, I go Blaze. I respect Blaze. Respect Bruce, of course. He's another metal god, but respect for Blaze.
Of course.
A pretty good curveball there. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So I think the difference between Maiden and Priest is that Priest hit this era like later, and Maiden hit it a long time ago. And so Maiden already been doing that. And so like if you look like Brave New World, people might have the same reaction, like Bruce came back and the album's good. And then the one after that was still pretty good. But then like I think it falls off after a few. It just kind of starts to be like, yeah, so what? But I think that's the point, is that Maiden didn't like, not Maiden, I mean Priest didn't run out of juice because they didn't do as many of these yet.
Sure.
And so people are surprised, but it's like, yeah, but, and I think with like the Nostradamus thing, and they were still maybe, again, messing around a bit, trying, because the Nostradamus was like a concept album, wasn't super well received, but some people like it. But then this is their no fucking around era. This is the victory lap where they're just like, we're just doing thing. And it's mostly Painkiller, but right. I will
Bruce
say,
is still certainly fucking around with this Mandrake concept.
Well, yeah, that's his solo shit. Who gives a fuck? Well, and
it's clearly what he's doing these
and
days.
They're fucking around in the band too, because it's not as good, and they just keep doing the long songs and the whatever. Who gives a shit? Like, there's no. I don't give. I'm not gonna. I'll probably never. I would need to be externally motivated to listen to a new Maiden anything at this point, I think, because
I'll listen if a thing comes out, but like. Once.
But I haven't even bothered, I think, on the last one or two, because I'm like, so what? And then like even Angry Metal Guy didn't like the big double album they did, because of course, like, how are they going to make a double album all interesting? No way that was happening.
Noting all music reviewers hate big double albums because it's too goddamn much pissing and listening and.
Or they should. And in general, I think to malign the double album is the correct response. Like, rarely does it get pulled off to where you're like, good thing you did that, you know?
Some bonus tracks. That's cool. Whole other disc. You know, we didn't need it. If they were good, it would be an album. It's not an extra album. So you got lazy. You didn't trim the fat.
Yeah.
Get better editor.
Exactly. Or you could have even just released 2 albums. But
that's what I said. If it was good, you'd release another album, but you didn't. So yeah, probably not good.
Or yeah, like you said, or you just like didn't edit enough in the studio. You're like, it's all good. It's like, no, it's not. You got to rethink.
Your limitations.
How good it is. Yeah.
So we shit on everything else and really not talked about the album.
Yeah. So
I suppose we should talk about the album specifically.
Invincible Shield.
Yes. And we don't have the budget. I don't know. Technical to play stuff. So we're not going to talk about stuff while you hear it. You're going to have to look it up.
Yeah, I mean, I could play stuff, but then it would be, I would have to.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. You should go listen to it. You should go do your Spotify or whatever. We'll talk about songs as they go. Talk about our high points and low points and stuff. But hunt it up, give them some clicks, give them some listens. Everybody loves Rob and the boys, so it's worth it. But from our perspective, track by track, Panic Attack right off the bat. What do you think?
Panic Attack's pretty good. It was also one of the singles.
It was the single, the opener. This is where we're talking about. I mean, Painkiller 3. It's got the screams. It's got the drive.
Yes.
It's a really good track. It's a really good opening track. It does the whole thing. I don't know. You said you probably didn't watch the videos so much. I did check out that video. I was actually just watching it again before this. It's kind of a nostalgic video. It's got like the color tones and themes from some of their older stuff, like Turbo Lover and stuff like that. It's got kind of the orangey. Well, not the weird thing driving its motorcycle or whatever, and the lady with the boots, but it's got those tones. It's got performance clips and stuff like that. It's clearly trying to be, hey, we're back. Can't talk. You know what I meant. Yeah, so it was fun. It's not maybe super artistic, but really worthwhile and a really strong opening track, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree.
There's not a lot to say when songs are super strong. I took notes on every track I listened to, and the first 3, I don't have a lot of notes.
I have
They're good.
A few little notes, but they're more weird little quirky things, not necessarily that they're bad or amazing.
Well, I have some quirky type notes too, but that's again where things were kind of, oh, this is weird, or oh, I didn't like this, or etc. etc. But yeah, I mean, so in the spirit of that, Panic Attack, Serpent and the King, both very good songs. I don't have a ton of notes.
Yep.
A plus, no notes, that kind of thing. But go listen to them. Those are the singles, or some of them. Yep. I don't know.
I think the first 3 tracks were all the was it, or are there 3 or 4 singles? Because I remember them putting out Invincible Shield. I thought
there were videos for Panic Attack, the Serpent and the King, Invincible Shield, Crown of Horns. I think that's it.
Yeah, let me not do them out of order, but
that's the 5th one. They skipped over Devil in Disguise,
which I think might be for a good reason. That might be one of the less memorable ones.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going through my notes here, I don't want to skip around too much. We'll get there. Like I said, first 2 tracks, I thought really strong, really good all around. Invincible Shield, maybe not as good. There was one little vocal note choice kind of leading into the solos toward the end of the thing. It was kind of awkward. Like it's maybe one of those where you're trying to use a weird note to make tension in your composition or whatever. I'm not a musician. Yeah. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. You probably
exactly know what you're talking about. Like that's not you exactly perfectly described.
All right. Yeah, me. Yeah. I'm awesome. No.
The funny thing to me, the funny thing to me about Invincible Shield is that he pronounces it like Invincible, and I kept thinking
I feel like that's nothing new.
No, and again, it's fine. It's like sometimes you're like, well, how are you going to pronounce a word in a metal song? But it was funny to me because I kept hearing Invincible, and I kept thinking like Invincible. Like, is this like? So then I was thinking, oh, maybe it's continuing the Painkiller concept, right? Because there was like a very, very loose kind of. There's this guy and he's the Painkiller. Only it's like, oh, this is about how he has like balls made of metal and they're invincible. They're his invincible balls, his invincibles. The Painkiller's invincible balls. And so that was every time I listened to the song, that's what I thought of. And I was like,
for sure it's not an homage to Blackie Lawless and his Buzzsaw Codpiece.
He also has invincibles. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of moments on this album that feel like they are homage-y to things. I don't think that's one.
Yeah, I have another one. I don't know if it's intentional, but there's another homage-y moment I have.
Yeah, I don't want to jump around too much, I said. But anything else that really jumped out at you in that one?
No, it was all right. Like you said, it wasn't as strong as the other singles, but it was all right.
I would agree. Bad. Devil in Disguise, the only note I wrote down at all was kind of meh.
Yeah.
It was just the only track on the whole thing that was just I don't care. That was a miss.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good enough. Good talk.
Gates of Hell.
Yeah, Gates of Hell, not bad. I need to give that at least one more listen because I feel like maybe I didn't pay as strong attention after listening to a kind of meh song. Mm-hmm. So that might be on me. I think it was all right, but
yeah, same general feeling.
Same. Okay, maybe it's not just me.
No, I like Crown of Horns a lot.
You do?
I thought that was a very good one, and I felt like it was maybe a little bit less. There are a few tracks on here that don't sound like they were necessarily on Painkiller, like or at least have musical elements that reference other points in their career. They still sound like Painkiller, like production-wise, they still sound like Painkiller, which again is not a bad thing. That they're basically just like going for the modern equivalent of the Painkiller sound. That's not bad at all. Sure. There's really not a better sound you could want from Priest. It's just a fact. And then people get very mad because they're like, you want things to be original and unique, and they don't have to be ever. And that's why my band is good, even though we have no ideas. That's what I always hear, because people get like, that's the problem, is they like, it's fine to be like, you know what, it doesn't have to. Like somebody was like, they don't have to innovate. And I'm like, that's 100% correct. They do not have to innovate at this point, and I really wouldn't expect them to. But then people will take it like way too far in the other direction, because like there's like literally like YouTubers who are like, you know what? Actually, originality is going to get in the way of you making good music. If you try to be original, it's not going to help. And it's like, maybe that's true if you're bad at it. Like maybe if you're just like, look, I'm not going to come up with anything new. The best I can do. Like maybe that's true for some people, and that they got to shoot low. You got to shoot for the stars shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars because they're part of the same surface, because the sky is a dome and the earth is flat, right? That's the
firmament or whatever.
Right. But it's like, they're like, look, you're not going to make it to the moon. But the thing is, it's also a dumb, dumb phrase.
You missed what you're aiming at. You hit something much lower.
But it doesn't even make sense because the stars are much further away. They're actually much higher. So you're like, But somebody probably came up with that.
The thrust to get that far. You're just floating around, just outside of Earth's orbit. You're just fucking around.
Shoot for the moon and you'll die in space. Like that's what they're saying is like, don't shoot for the moon. You'll just die in space.
And that's fair. That's what
probably never escape Earth's gravity.
Goodness. There you go.
Which, again, maybe for some people, my personal philosophy is that you should, if you don't strive for any originality or novelty, you definitely won't get any. Yep. That's my personal philosophy. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying the margin for novelty has to be huge, and it's almost impossible to be as huge as, like, say, if you were, again, Painkiller, Priest in, like, was it 1990? Like, they, considering they already had such a great career, to come out and basically, you know, rather than kind of like just sort of, I mean, again, you can hear stuff building up to it, because I actually really like some of the stuff on like Ram It Down, and obviously Turbo.
Sure,
but
obviously. Screaming.
Everyone was very surprised because I have videos from that period where they talk about it and they're like, oh, we didn't think Priest was going to make it. Like, but they basically established themselves as like a modern metal band in the 90s, despite also being a classic or like first generation metal band, which is insane. I mean, again, the only other band I can think that even comes close to that is like Black Sabbath. You know, they also kind of did that a couple times where you were like, these old guys aren't going to wait. What the fuck? Did you just start the clock over? Like, you're like, no. Right. We changed our mind. Metal starts now. You thought it started like 10 years ago. No, that wasn't even metal. That was just like us fucking dicking around trying to figure out what metal is. 1980, Heaven and Hell. And then in the 90s, Dehumanize. They're just like, no, fuck you. We're going to keep. Anyway, so.
They also cheated having Ozzy. And then
that's true. They cheated by swapping singers. But they also cheated by having Tony Iommi, who just refuses to run out of riffs. It's ridiculous, the riffs this guy comes up with.
Because he sacrificed his finger to the devil or whatever?
I guess, maybe.
I think that's how that works.
Or maybe it was a genie and they were like, okay, you're never going to run out of riffs, but you are going to run out of his fingers. You know, I don't know. You never know. Definitely happens.
I would say. I did have a couple of specific notes on Crown of the Horns. I know you said you liked it. Mm-hmm. I found it to be, again, a little bit boring. There were no screams, which, okay, fine, sure. But it felt a little bit like Grandpa Halford needed a nap at this point.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a different vibe. And that's why I was saying it kind of like surprised me that I was like, oh, I don't think I can say that this is purely like a Painkiller song.
That's fair. I also, I don't know if you remember specific any of the musicality from it, but like the very initial intro, it felt ripped directly from something from Satriani. I think it was something off of Crystal Planet. I was gonna look it up.
Very specific.
But I did something else.
Okay.
I think I actually just listened to the rest of the album instead of remembering to look it up.
Oh, okay.
It felt very Satriani though.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
I could probably find it if I bothered to.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember.
Sorry, listeners.
Crystal Planet, but yeah,
Yeah, kind of the
listen to it your own selves, and then tell us if it's a good idea or not.
Give the boys a listen. They can use the clicks. Everybody needs the clicks. Anyway, that was really my notes on that. We covered Crown of Horns. I gotta give enough time to the singles, but
yes.
All right.
Next one is As God Is My Witness.
Yep, I really like this one. Really did. Really good riffs, really good energy. Vocal maybe not as strong as some of the early stuff. Maybe not quite matching with the the instrumentation.
The stuff he does do the high screamy stuff on is really, really good. Yep. And people are rightfully impressed that he still sounds this great. And there was a period where he didn't so much. I think it's one of those things where he just was like, taking it really seriously and probably taking care of himself and warming up and really basic shit that singers can do to keep sounding good, but a lot of them don't. And that's pretty much the only way you go from like not sounding as good to sounding as good again. And so, good for him.
Unless you're David Coverdale, and then you just sound like that till you die. And it's cheating.
Does he still have the high range though?
Didn't he die?
Coverdale?
Maybe he didn't die. Maybe they're sounding.
I don't think he died.
No, I think he still has the whole thing. I could be wrong.
I remember. I haven't really paid attention, but I thought like last I heard he like, because he actually has like a low gravelly voice, but I didn't know if he still had the high stuff. But I would have to.
I know for a long time he was famous for being this guy who would have a glass or two of wine and go out and do a show and be like, fuck you, I'm David Coverdale. I do whatever the hell I want.
I just don't know if he's still there because he's like so old now, but he could. I haven't listened to whatever he's been. What has he been doing?
I don't know.
Is he still doing Whitesnake?
There's probably was there a new Whitesnake to go along with the other resurgence in 1985 that we previously discussed? I think there might have been.
Good question.
I'd have to hunt it up. I know it's off topic, but it's all right.
Like I know
this can be edited.
Still around. Oh, they put out an album. They did an album of Deep Purple versions of songs that Coverdale had performed with Deep Purple. The last like original new album I think was 2008. It looks like. And they toured with Judas Priest. Only it was canceled because
COVID?
He had a vocal injury. A vocal fold edema and a left vocal fold vascular lesion. So they canceled that tour. That could be where I'm getting my thought from, or I could have just made it up anyway. It could have just be total nonsense.
Fair. I didn't think to do the research on this because I didn't think of talking about David Coverdale until just now. So
yep.
That's on
same.
me.
It's all good. No, it's okay. We're allowed to talk about random shit, and we have no standards of. There's no.
None whatsoever. I do what I want. Fucking artist.
It's not shit. It's not journalism. It's freelance musicology. So
there you go.
Say what you want. Anyway,
but yeah, As God Is My Witness, I thought this could have been a big single. Other than the vocals were, not consistent throughout. And toward the end, the solo Wheedly Woos were just kind of a mess. I don't know if maybe that was on purpose or just.
I felt like a lot of solos and some riffs were like. I mean, this is kind of one of my few issues with Judas Priest right now, since Richie Faulkner's in the band. He before Glenn left, I think it was like him and Richie, but then sometimes when Glenn can't play now, I think actually I don't know if Andy Sneap is touring with them again, or
I think that's how that works.
But yeah, that seemed to be the format. But the point is, Richie Faulkner is clearly younger than the band, super big fan, knows how to do the thing they're known for. Contribute without messing up the sound, but then sometimes that also just means it sounds like he's like playing a Judas Priest solo, and it's like, okay, and so sometimes the solos were like almost a little predictable, I thought, where you're like, yeah, that's what a Judas Priest solo sounds like, no surprises. Like he does like a certain kind of a pattern and then kind of just like uh like moves it around, but like repeats the same thing but moves it down like diatonically or chromatically, whatever. There's certain patterns where they kind of just go, yeah, and you know where that's going to go, and then it does, kind of thing, which is fine. Again, it's okay.
It's Priest. Sometimes Priest is just supposed to do what Priest is supposed to do. It's
but
fine.
It is contrary to, say, actual Painkiller, because people were very surprised on Painkiller when Glenn Tipton started doing sweeps and shit. And so that is, people, it's like, I get people, a lot of people like more of a thing they like.
Sure.
And that is fine. But it is also fair for me to say that that's never as good as the thing that it is creating more of, with rare exceptions sometimes, but usually, and I will still go listen to Painkiller and it still rules, like you right. Still, that's why I'm just be like, this is pretty cool. But you know what it really does is it makes me want to listen to Painkiller, and then I'll go listen to fucking Painkiller. It's great.
Exactly.
So I don't know that, and so I think some a little like solos that sometimes aren't like, I think that might be Ritchie. I have another little anecdote about Ritchie that I'll come back to.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about Trial by Fire. Was this one maybe also a single? Am I losing my mind?
Yes, this was the single that I didn't care for as much because it was so like, I think maybe the lyrics were a little like.
I had mixed feelings about this song. I like the riffing. I like Rob's lower vocals on this. I like the Trial by Fire line, but the vocals kind of throughout were pretty uneven. I don't like the whoa stuff at all. It felt really like lazy. I guess maybe I just don't like that in writing. There was one good scream early in the song and one really bad scream toward the end, and I don't know why you leave in some like bad sounding screams when you've clearly got the production and Rob can do good screams, so why do that?
Yeah, and I think it was maybe I don't know, the way that the chorus like set up the Trial by Fire rhyme and then just like lands on it. I don't know, it just
it's a little obvious. It's obvious.
Yeah, that's how it felt obvious, and that's not really bad. It was bad to me. I didn't like this single. This was the single that made me less enthused about like, oh, there's a new Priest album coming out, and I'm like, we'll see. But
fair. I think that's pretty fair. Like I said, it was uneven, just kind of good parts, bad parts. Yeah. But that's kind of this album.
Yep.
Escape from Reality. Still uneven.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to kind of point out here, I had mentioned it earlier that some of these songs feel a bit homage-y.
Mm-hmm.
And some of this felt like a nod to some Sabbath a lot, especially with the double-tracked Ozzy style vocals. Maybe some of the riffs, some of the lyrics. I don't remember the lyrics off the top of my head, but were you getting that at all?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I didn't really think of it at the time, but now that you mention it,
like there was some really like, okay, we're doing Ozzy stuff like now, and admittedly, any time a metal guy singing high does double tracked vocals, it almost always makes you think of Ozzy because it's Ozzy.
Yeah,
and he did it first, and he did it the most, and that's what you get.
Yeah, he did it a lot. This reminds me that I missed my other silly homage note, which was just that Devil in Disguise had this weird little like tick 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 thing, which reminded me of that.
I hated that
Metallica,
Metallica
like frantic tick tick. Yeah, and it almost like I was like, is that an homage to that shitty Metallica song? Maybe not.
Yeah. I like that song even less now that you reminded me about that.
Yeah, I got on that.
I don't know that we can call that an homage because it's bad.
I mean, it just
What's a
that
bad
doesn't make it
homage?
not an homage.
Not parody. It should have been, maybe.
Well, right. If it was intended, that's all about a difference in intention, really. And I really don't think they're intending to make fun of Metallica. So
Probably not.
I'm
I'm going to continue to ignore that song. Yeah, it's good.
Plus, like, older musicians tend to kind of settle into that, like, you know, I got nothing to prove. Everything's fine. I don't care. I don't care if anybody else is good or bad. So I just say they're all good, because then I get less flack about it. And so, like, I would totally then be like, you know, like Rob being like, you know what, I actually really like Saint Anger. I'm like, oh man, just fucking
Everything's groovy, man. I love
you know,
all.
do something different, you know, like try and sounding like shit for once. Like, yeah, you know, but you know, they had their experimental era or whatever, but
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was, but I don't know if it was intentional or not. It could have been.
Well,
maybe not.
I
Who
would
knows?
say if nothing on this album sounds as bad as anything on Saint Anger.
No,
Saint Anger could
this is
go
more
die in a
an
fire.
homage to the shitty writing on Saint Anger. Because remember, you got to remember that Saint Anger sucks on multiple levels.
Yes, correct.
And that's one of them.
Jesus, what a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Anyway, happier note. Sons of Thunder, straight up calling all leather daddies. I mean bikers. I mean, no, I meant leather daddies. This was straight up classic Priest writing. Well, let's ride all night, break through the barrier, rolling like thunder. We rumble and roar, leading the pack as we scream out for more. This is screaming for vengeance. We're talking about sex stuff,
Yeah.
and wearing leather, and so yeah, it's Priest. It's definitely Priest. Like it or hate it.
Yep. That's what the people want.
Yep. It was a decent enough song. I mean, it's really obvious, but it's Priest, and again, it should be. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah. It's a classic Priest formula. I liked Giants in the Sky.
I also like Giants in the Sky a lot. This also felt kind of homagey to like Sabbath again. I didn't expect the little acoustic or nylon guitar or whatever kind of in the middle. That kind of caught me off guard.
It was another one that I felt like musically escaped the Painkiller zone. If not, again, it's still everything's still produced and sounds like Painkiller with a little modern touch, but that's fine and good. But musically is one of a few songs that are like, oh, you know what? I don't think that this sounds like a song that was left off Painkiller.
Right. Saying all that about this song, I like this song. I touched on this earlier. They did this earlier, except for this was the last track. It was the last thing you heard on the track. The scream at the end of the song was so bad.
Oh.
It sucked horrendously.
That's like the third scream that you said was not a good scream. Oh boy.
Yeah, it might be. And there are such good screams on this album.
There
really are
some very good screams.
This one, I don't know why it's there. I don't know how you took that take and said, "Okay, Rob, that's fine." Unless he was like, "Here you go, guys. Fuck you. I got places to be." Which that doesn't feel like a Rob kind of thing, you know. And maybe this is some. Oh my god, it hurts, and we're old, and everyone's dead and dying, and blah. And maybe that's artistic. It was not good. It was a horrible way to end the album for me. It was kind of like, hey guys, Priest is probably done here.
Ooh. Well, yeah, it could just be an artistic choice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like that. Bad way to end an album.
Alrighty. Right on.
The version I had also had 3 bonus tracks. Now that we've gotten done shitting all over extra material and double albums and all that kind of stuff.
Like, so I'm just looking at it on Spotify. How do you know they're bonus tracks? Because on Spotify, I just look, there's 14 tracks. So I was going to say it's kind of a long album, but
here's what I'm working with in terms of that being official. I read Angry Metal Guy's review, and he talked about the tracks we just talked about, and said, "Yeah, Giants in the Sky is the last track." So I thought,
oh, okay,
well, it looks like I dug up a deluxe edition. So that makes sense. So did you listen to these other 3 songs also then?
Yeah, I didn't have any notes on them, and I only listened to them once and get to repeat them.
I did take some notes. I guess I'll run through them quick. I don't know if anybody else is gonna hunt up the deluxe or whatever. Apparently, it's easy enough to hunt up on Spotify.
Like again, it's on Spotify, and they don't seem to be noted as different in any way. But I guess maybe the review copy is different, and I wonder if they're on.
Or maybe Angry Metal Guy's just fucked up.
Maybe
if the album doesn't have to end on that awful scream, I would really support that. That would be better for my mental health.
And I want to be clear, this review is written by Steel Drum.
Yes.
Not Angry Metal.
Because there are many of the Angry Metal Guys.
Many Angry Metal Guys.
Even Angry
some
Metal
people.
Angry Metal Gals, I believe.
Yes, Angry Metal people of all kinds writing
the Angry
reviews. And also they gave it a 3 out of 5. Oh, that almost seems like lower than I feel like the average response I've heard. Although, they're partially saying they're comparing it to Firepower, and Firepower was
really strong.
The previous Painkiller that everyone was surprised was so good. Right. So that makes sense that it wouldn't necessarily, I may have to listen to Firepower again some more. Interesting.
I did listen to it quite a bit when it came out. I could use another spin on that. But you said you didn't have any notes on these 3 tracks. I can just run through mine quick.
Sure.
Fight of Your Life, better mid-range vocals on this than like the rest of the album, really. I really like this song better than any of the kind of Grandpa Helfer Needs a Nap kind of stuff. The riff on this felt very referential to, and nobody else is going to have made this connection because I'm the only person who listened to Load. It felt like the song Ronnie off of Load a lot.
Oh, wow.
This could be some blues standard. I don't know. It's kind of a bluesy kind of different sort of track. And that may be why it's just a similar thing. That's what I heard immediately. I went and hunted up that track. Yes, it's very similar. I don't know if it's an homage or just these things happen. Hard to say. But again, listeners, go point at the camera. Go and listen for yourself. Don't point at the screen. That's not where the listeners there. Fine. Shut up. I'm old too. I can point at the wrong goddamn thing.
You point at the microphone, so hopefully some people will listen to it and won't even see the video. And
right there you go. Anyway, Vicious Circle, kind of heavy riffing on this. That was good. But the production on the vocals, and honestly, as the song went on, the whole, it wasn't good. It felt like a bonus track. And it ended weird. It didn't like have an ending. Like they didn't write one. It just kind of was boop. So, and then The Lodger. I feel like this is a concept, or at least a title that keeps coming up in things. I think Bowie had a Lodger album, and didn't Merciful Fate have a something with the Lodger or a Lodger, or maybe it was just part of the lyrics of one of the songs.
It's possible. I don't know it offhand.
I really like the track. I thought it easily could have been on the album, other than the fact that I thought it like varied a lot from the overall kind of tone of the album, which I actually would have appreciated it being on the album because of the variance. Like kind of what you talked about. There were some of the songs that moved away from the obvious stuff a little bit, and this definitely did. I like The Lodger. I think it should have been on the album proper.
Huh. Yeah, and I can see, like you're saying, in the Angry Metal Guy review, it says that it's 52 minutes without bonus tracks, and so
there you go.
The Spotify version is an hour and 3 minutes, so that's like a full 11 extra minutes. Which I would also say
really short.
52
might have been
minutes.
Vicious Circle. Might have been the one that like didn't have an end written or whatever the fuck happened.
Yeah, Vicious Circle is only 3 minutes.
That might have been it.
Interesting. Well,
there you go.
Not bad.
Overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's solid. I kind of, people saying it's like slightly less good than Firepower makes me want to give Firepower another try, since I don't think I ever listened to like
I
the
would say
whole
it's
thing.
accurate. I would agree with that assessment. Firepower is really, really good. This had good stuff on it, but was a little more uneven.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Rob still sounds really good when
Mostly.
at the peaks. I look. I'm not surprised. There's some tracks where he doesn't do anything crazy because he wants to be able to like do all of it live. And while
Sure.
he can nail that stuff, it's like it's still harder if you're trying to do it constantly. And so I'm not totally surprised that there are, as you said, Grandpa Halford needs a nap songs. That's all right. And usually he still sounds really good on that stuff too.
I guess they are touring, I don't know, 3 or 4 of the songs off of this and their new stuff. I sent you that article. It had a bunch of live recordings. I tried to listen to one and I turned it off because it wasn't good, which I don't know. Maybe it's because they're just getting into a tour. Maybe it's because it was Painkiller.
Oh, well.
It's maybe a bad place to start, especially I think they're doing Painkiller way into the set, which fuck, that's got to be hard when you're 72.
Yeah, it could go either way. It could be one of those things where like yeah, it looks like it's the last. Oh wait, it's not the last song. It's the last song before the encore.
Right.
And then the encore is Hellbent for Leather and Living After Midnight, which are not nearly as crazy.
Easier songs.
And so it makes kind of sense that like if you do it last and you like go too hard on it, that's okay because then you can just rest. If you do it first and you
maybe you're done for the show.
Yeah, you don't want to kill the whole show. So it can make sense that like, if things are going generally well, it lets you, your last hurrah. It's either got to be basically the first or last song, and you want it. I'm almost surprised it's not an encore song because then you can just be like fucking fuck it. But
also, you can take a 5-10 minute break and just be like, all right, hang on, I gotta do some illicit substance that we don't want to mention any substances.
I doubt Halford is. I think he might be sober. I have to listen. I have his autobiography, and I really need to. When I finish with Getty's, maybe I'll do that one. I have this bad habit.
Stem cells. Maybe he needs to do a quick shot of stem cells.
Shoot up some stem cells. I have a bad habit of starting these biographies and then like getting distracted by another one. But
I understand.
And we should podcast about him when I actually finish them.
Well, I haven't listened to him, so yes,
that's true.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We can do. There's different formats. Like you just do like I tell you about it if you want, or you can check them out. It's up to you. But
story time with Uncle Matt. Oh boy.
Book review. Book review versus book club, I guess. Yeah, this looks like a pretty decent set list.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it's Priest. I mean, as long as they're playing the bigger songs, you can't miss.
Sure, that's true. It's
unless you don't play them well,
right? It's not like if they were playing Blood Red Skies, I would maybe be like, oh, I should actually go see them. But they're not. But that's okay.
Times are tough.
Again, they have a lot of good songs. They can't play all of them.
Right. Because it would kill them.
So it really comes down to more about, with Priest is more about like, what are your favorites? And as far as the set list, and it's pretty solid, but it's not like oh my God, I got to go see him on this tour kind of set list.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to run right out. But
also, I mean, they're big. They play big venues. The tickets are usually kind of expensive.
Yep. No doubt.
But I mean, I'm sure they're great. Also, that's the other factor is that I was like, it's a no original guitar player lineup now. So I'm like, why do I give a shit? Oh, which brings me.
Yeah. Are you going to talk about Mr. KK?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, not really. I was talking about fucking.
I was going to ask
Glenn
about KK.
Faulkner. Well, all I know about KK, I meant to do more research on that because I don't remember what originally sparked it, but I remember like he either left and then wanted to come back and they said no, or they kicked him out, but then he started his own Priest with Tim Owens, Ripper.
Yep.
And I think some other idiot is in that. some other like reject. Right. Some other like.
I've read about this briefly on the wikis, and it sounded like he retired and then maybe came back, and they were writing, and then there were artistic differences or whatever the crap. Somebody stepped on somebody's toes. Somebody was butthurt. Who cares? And now it's KK's praised, and it's really awkward. I'm not going to say it's like bad or anything. It's fine. It sounds a lot like Priest, but it's artistically bankrupt.
Yeah, and it's they got to stop splitting bands into two versions of the same band. You just somebody got to go, oh, this is why, because Dave Ellefson just joined them.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Right? That's like now you just made yourself the that's guys who are no longer wanted in their previous band.
That's awful. That's like, I like Ripper. I don't think anyone has a problem with Ripper.
I have some problems with Ripper. But
let me rephrase. I don't think anybody has like relationship beef with Ripper. I don't think anyone's upset with him because he's a bad guy.
No, not necessarily. I'm aware of. Maybe his like views, Oh,
I have no idea what his views are. I couldn't.
They're not great.
Oh no.
I mean, I don't think they're that specific though, but they sort of just generally land on that side of like.
You're saying Ripper is a chud.
He's a little bit of a chud.
Well, he did work with.
But yeah, I'm not surprised.
Another particularly well-known metal chud.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. But yeah.
Fair enough. That's terrible.
Totally.
KK, David Part 2, and Ripper. Wow.
Yep. So the only this random little Richie Faulkner thing, I was trying to look up what like amps and stuff they were using on this album, because they clearly did a very Painkiller kind of tone. And I believe on Painkiller, they were playing guitars with EMG pickups, and I believe the Marshall JMP1 preamp, which is significant because much like the Mesa Boogie amp I like, the Triaxis, it's a tube amp preamp, but it's got like digital controls, and so you can like save a bunch of different settings kind of thing. And it also just had a lot of gain, a lot of like options. Megadeth also, I believe, used them for a while in their like peak era, which also had like, in my opinion, their best tones. So I was curious what Rich was using. He's using like a Marshall. It wasn't that interesting. But what was interesting in the video where he talked about his gear was he talked about how he used to learn guitar by taking the needle on the vinyl and, moving it back and to re-listen to the part. And I'm like, wait a minute, how old is he? Because he's a lot younger than the rest of the band. And so I looked it up, and he's like 7 months older than me. And so I'm like, you didn't have any tapes? You didn't have tapes? And like, also,
is he a hipster?
I had the internet. I learned stuff from tabs. Like, granted, maybe he was like younger at that point but I was like, what? No tapes.
The kids, the hipsters, they love their vinyls. They collect them, they hoard them, they worship them.
And there
makes me uncomfortable, to be honest.
And another fact I recently learned from a completely unrelated topic that may be a separate episode at some point, because I was trying to figure out how long like cassette tapes had been around. They were invented in 1962. So it's this thing where it's like tapes have been around a while. We'll get to a topic in another episode, which has to do with like the changes in the industry with like streaming and file sharing and all that, and people's beliefs about nobody values music and you got to pay and all that. But tapes have been around since 1962, and what I know a lot of people did, and I even did a little bit of it, is you would tape something off the radio, and then you could rewind it and listen to it, and rewind it and listen to it. But I was just like, oh, it's got the vinyl, man. And I mean, again, I was like, do they not have tapes in England? No, they have. I think they have tapes, but
probably
I was
just
dumb. I was like,
England is just completely old timey.
Fucker's my age, and he's like, back in jolly old England, I don't think
Looks,
It actually
all
sounds like
Louis
that,
had is grandpa's guitars.
Yes.
I know this is wrong country. This accent is getting away from me again. I should
It's fun.
stop
A
it.
lot of people did listen to records. It's still a lot in the 80s. But it's just fun. I was like, because I was like, how old is he? Wait, what is he from?
Maybe he just thought it was easy. Maybe he couldn't work out the buttons.
It's possible.
It's very complicated.
All right. Well, I think that covers our sort of review of Invincible.
You want to give it a
Shield.
score? I don't know if we've scored stuff.
I don't.
Everybody likes to score.
I don't believe in it. I'm
No?
against it on principle because one of two things will happen. Either A, it's very arbitrary and inconsistent with other ratings, or B, I need to come up with the most elaborate numeric rating system ever. Like that's anytime I try to think about like numeric ratings,
total covers.
I'm like,
I liked it.
That wasn't so much, but that was this very specific rating. That was not, in fact, purely a good or bad
And we got
music
no
rating.
views.
Because I
You
find
bastard listeners, go back.
Like-
It was brilliant.
you look at like angry metal guy gets flack for it. Anthony Fantano gets flack for it. It's one of these things where no matter what you say in the review, people will look at the number and be like, "No, that number's wrong." And it's like, first of all,
Right, but that's
it's
important.
it's
You
dumb
have
in the
to
first
give
place.
people
It's
something to
so-
argue about.
Yeah,
Then
but they
can
can just
engage the
argue
content.
about the individual points. We already piss people off enough. The point is,
No, there's no such thing as enough.
it.
All press is good press.
I'm against numeric rating systems of music because
It's a 3.25. Argue with me in the comments.
everyone has a different scale.
Right.
People even have different, like, it's totally, the only way it makes sense is if you compare it to one single reviewer's other reviews. And then you get into issues with like, if you can give a perfect score, not truly like, what is the, like nothing's perfect, but yet you must be able to give the top
Dildo
score.
who gave the 5 out of 5 to the
To
I forgot what that
Fellowship.
band was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, fuck that
Are you
guy.
fucking kidding me?
Seriously.
But he even said it was just because it was like it meant that much to him. But then like, okay, now your numeric ratings mean nothing to me ever.
Which is why I said fuck
they're
that guy.
useless.
Just completely fuck him.
But it's also just fuck numeric ratings. That's what happens. That's like unavoidably the problem. Philosophically against numeric rating systems for music. It's
okay. Do you think it's better or worse or comparable to where AMG came in on it? Because you said you're okay comparing it to what other reviewers have said.
3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 is fine. Yeah, I don't have a problem with 3 out of 5.
Okay. I can handle that. Good enough.
Yeah, I was actually surprised they didn't rate it higher, but that's fine. I wonder actually what did they give?
I think he said
Firepower.
it would have been a solid 3.5 if they had trimmed some of the weak stuff. So,
And
Make of that what you
Firepower,
will.
they gave Firepower 3.5. So
oh well, that's surprising. I would have thought that was higher. But
Wait, did
I
they-
think their scores are very arbitrary.
there's a Your Metal is Old on Painkiller, but I'm trying to see if they didn't give it a rating. They don't give a rating on that. It's just like
Your metal
this
is old
the
and you
best.
should feel old. This feels derivative.
But they should have. That's what they should have give Painkiller a 5 out of 5 because that is an appropriate album to do that for. Like I would say, like my way of rating something would be more like, put it in like a tier. I'd be more comfortable with doing like those tier list kind of
Oh,
things
good. Sure.
than a numeric rating system.
Fair.
Because this is like a top tier album. Like it doesn't really get better for what it's doing. But that's the other part is like, what is it doing? How good is it doing the thing it's doing?
Yep.
5
good
out
enough.
of 5 out of 5. Yeah. So you get it. It's nonsense. Anyway,
It's not for me. It's for the people to argue about.
Right.
And that's what
All
we
right.
want. Engage the content.
what am I telling
Like,
people to
subscribe, get after it,
do? Call
argue,
to action.
go listen to the things, do the things.
Do action. I'm calling for it.
Yeah.
Do those actions that he
do,
just said.
do the actions. Get
Like and
after it, you
subscribe.
bastards.
If
See you
you're
next time.
if you're listening on iTunes, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, leave an angry comment. Tell us
Please.
why we're wrong.
I love those.
And yeah, that's good. And we'll see you on the next one. Upcoming topics include Yari Winterson, which I believe is his legal name, announced Time 2 finally, and a bunch of silly videos to go along with it. and a new Kickstarter because he didn't get enough money from the previous one, and some other bullshit. So
Good stuff. Peace out.
all right, I'm turning it off now.